Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about the brand new AMC original series entitled Kevin Can F Himself. It stars Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek, who, if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you know I absolutely adore that show. So I had to find the time to sit down and watch these first two episodes. What happened is the AMC dropped the first two episodes. They're hour-long episodes, about 45 minutes minus commercials. And they dropped on the new AMC streaming service called AMC Plus last night, Sunday, June 13th. They're going to come on AMC, your regular standard AMC that you can watch on TV, next Sunday, June 20th, with a 2-hour premiere of the first two episodes, which are the ones that I just watched. So I'm not going to go into any kind of spoilers about the show, but I kind of wanted to talk about the nature of the show, particularly since Schitt's Creek has such a massive fan base, right? And there are going to be people who are interested in this show who might come into it wondering, hoping that it might be similar to Schitt's Creek in some sort of way. So I kind of wanted to give you guys my thoughts on the first couple episodes, where I think the show is going, and, you know, just the nature of Annie Murphy's performance in it, just because, you know, again, I want to make sure that people understand that this isn't necessarily going to be Schitt's Creek. So I watched the first two episodes probably about a couple of hours ago, and it's a very interesting and unique show. And we've had similar shows with this same kind of unique style. I think the most similar to it that I would say is actually WandaVision, which was on Disney Plus earlier. And it's the concept is essentially you have a sitcom style, I should say. It's not this show isn't a sitcom. I want to lay that out there up front. It's not a sitcom. You have a sitcom style where you have your multi-camera. It's very well lit. You have a laugh track. The characters are constantly cracking jokes. You come across these sitcom-esque blunders and situations that they have to overcome. And I'm making it sound like they spend more time in the sitcom world than they do, but we see essentially the desire for Annie Murphy's character. Her name is Allison in the show. We see through the sitcom lens the events that are causing Allison to want to essentially get rid of her husband, Kevin. And then every now and then, well, actually, I'm going to say more than every now and then, because I feel like the show spends more time in the, I'm just going to say the non-sitcom world than it does in the sitcom world. But, you know, Allison might walk through a door or go into a different area of the house or leave the house. And the style of the show, the look of the show switches dramatically to kind of like a single camera kind of prestige drama kind of look, very dark, very gritty. It kind of looks like Breaking Bad to me at times. And this is where we kind of see her kind of like really living her real life, kind of reflecting on the I don't want to say terrible situations, but terrible situations is kind of appropriate. It's just you don't want to call them terrible situations because they happen over a laugh track. But you know, she goes out into this non-sitcom world, and we see how Allison is responding to the things that Kevin is doing within the sitcom world. Kevin and his cohorts, like he has, I believe his father is there at their house all the time. I don't know if he lives there or not. And then his neighbor and the neighbor's wife are constantly at the house. And you know, I think the most interesting thing about this show is it makes me reflect on a couple of things. One, it makes me wonder if I have been missing the nature of the sitcom husband or the sitcom male. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you watch the sitcom stuff, kind of just like, if I bet anyway, because you can't know, but if you were to remove the non-sitcom stuff, the darker, gritty stuff, and just play the sitcom stuff, I wonder if it would feel like a normal sitcom. But I think when you have that contrast between like, okay, this is what this character who lives in this sitcom life would really feel about the circumstances of this sitcom life, it shines a little bit more of a light on the reality of that sitcom life. I'm saying sitcom life a lot. I'm going to try to stop. But it shines a little bit of a light on that. And you realize, like, are these guys always this terrible? Like, this Kevin guy is insufferable. I mean, he's awful. And he's boorish, oafish. He treats her like shit. He bosses her around all the time. He constantly makes her clean up his messes, both literally and figuratively. He's selfish. I mean, this guy is terrible. Like, he's a terrible person. Like, he's just like, why would anybody be married to this guy? And it all happens over a laugh track. And it's not anything overt. Like, he's not like beating the shit out of her or something like that. But it's like things that you could see in an everyday marriage. You could see a husband being like that. It even makes me look at myself in the mirror. Like, have I done this? Like, am I like this sometimes? Like, I know I'm not, but like, I think about it, like, it makes me look at myself as a man. Like, am I doing these incredibly chauvinistic, selfish things? I don't have a selfish bone in my body, but like, it still makes you wonder because it shines such a light on that. It makes you wonder how often it's happening and you're missing it as a man. Is this portrayal of the sitcom male, how accurate is this? Like, do we see this a lot? Are we as men in general like this a lot as husbands? Like, are we selfish like this a lot? It makes it very reflective for me. And I think it would for any halfway decent person, because this guy is a total piece of shit. I mean, like, it to the point where I'm wondering where the direction of this show is going, because the sitcom stuff after only 2 episodes is bordering on unbearable to watch, because it's a form of abuse almost. It's like I said, he's not like beating or anything like that, but it's like he's treating Allison like shit, and she's just kind of like rolling with the punches under this kind of like this misguided concept of like, this is just what the wife is supposed to do, and she even has a conversation in the non-sitcom world with the wife of the neighbor. I'm sorry, I can't recall her name right now. The neighbor's name is Neil, and that's the only thing I don't know the father's name, and I don't know Neil's wife's name. But she even has a conversation with Neil's wife that kind of revolves around the idea of the wife saying like, I just kind of this is how I expected my life to be. I'm fine with this. I don't need it to be anything better than this. I'm fine with kind of just like, she doesn't say waiting on him hand and foot, but kind of just being that person that you can walk all over. And she works in a liquor store with who I believe is her uncle's wife. I don't believe it is her aunt, but like her aunt in the sense of like her, a blood relative of hers, like her mother's sister or something like that. I think she's by marriage. And they even have a conversation, something to the effect of, the wife's, the aunt saying something like she's, accustomed to this sort of thing, or okay with like this. These are the sacrifices that you make in a marriage. Almost like this is normal to be treated like this and to roll with it. Like, she gave an example of like, I don't want to spoil it, but I don't want to spoil the show and give specific examples of what characters do and say. But I do want to give this one example because I thought this was so interesting that someone would say this. But she says like she needs some orthopedic shoes for her feet, but her husband said that they make her look like a night nurse, which was actually a funny line. Make her look like a night nurse bringing him his medication, because the husband, Allison's uncle, is laid up with like back problems or something like that, and he's taking like pain meds, which sounds like me. That was me for a very long time, but that's neither here nor there. And she says like, but the husband made that joke about her, so now she wears the flats whenever she's around the house with her husband, just so she doesn't look a way to get her clown. And she wears the orthopedic shoes on her own time. And I thought, and Allison even said like, that's not cool. Like, that's not how you're supposed to live life. And I thought that was so interesting that someone would say something like that, that this is a medical need, and your husband doesn't even have the decency to not give you shit for it, to the point where he shames you to the point where you feel you can't even wear shoes that you feel that are medically necessary for you. And that's kind of like, I think, the best story to explain the concept of what Allison deals with in the sitcom life with Kevin. And, Kevin's constantly doing things that are selfish and treating her terribly. And that's the kind of dynamic that they have. And then when she steps out into this gritty real world, she has these conversations with these people, and they kind of help her not even come to the realization on her own that she wants more. She does want more. We see her, she's constantly staring lovingly at listings for new houses, because their houses, it's a very middle-class neighborhood. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But she's looking at new houses. She already has a desire for more for herself. But then she gets out and she's having these conversations with these other women, with Neil's wife and with the uncle's wife at the liquor store. And it's almost, it's even furthering her desire to get out of this marriage. And, when I, started the episode, the first episode, I should say, my initial thought upon seeing Kevin being like kind of an asshole was like, yeah, just leave this guy. But that question is posed to her, not question, but that statement, that possibility is posed to Allison by someone. And even she kind of looks at it like it's not that easy. And it's like, and you would think going as far as wanting to kill this guy, which is essentially the premise of the show, is that she's fed up with this guy and she wants to kill him. Going so far as to kill this guy feels like an overreaction, but at the same time, you have to think about like what is the dynamic going on here. Like, is she trapped? Is he not even letting her go? Like, there's a storyline that kind of plays out within the first episode that very much feels like his behavior it's a very much an abusive relationship from a mental perspective. And I don't think he's doing it on purpose. He's too fucking stupid to do it on purpose. But like, it's just like the nature of his behavior, it traps her. And I think she would like to just simply leave, but she can't, because there's so many different things and aspects of Kevin's personality and things that he does because of his personality that kind of keeps her chained down. And it's interesting to see her grapple with this in between, like really in between like the sitcom scenes and the non-sitcom scenes, because they cut so quickly. Like I said, she could walk out of the kitchen, bam, now we're in dark gritty world, back into the kitchen, boom, well lit sitcom world. So it's a very interesting, not just visually, it's a very interesting dynamic, but it's just interesting to see how Allison reacts in both worlds. I don't want to say both worlds, it makes it sound like they're two separate worlds, but in both, I don't know, both the sitcom and the non-sitcom place, to the events that transpire within the sitcom world. So a little bit of background. She is from Boston, well, Worcester, Massachusetts. They have heavy Boston accents, very working class neighborhood. It looks pretty run. It looks very familiar to where I'm from, Detroit. Very rundown neighborhood. They don't have a ton of money, trying to get a new house. Very, middle class kind of life for Allison. And obviously, for those of you who are fans of Shit Creek, this is a huge departure from Alexis Rose. Like, no similarities whatsoever between Allison and Alexis. And I think that's going to work out really well for Annie Murphy, because I think when you have a role on such an iconic show and you created such an iconic character, your immediate concern, I would think, as an actor or actress, would be to try to separate yourself from that a little bit so you don't get typecast as that kind of character. And this character, Allison, is nothing like Alexis. So that's kind of cool to see Annie do something a little bit different. I don't say Annie, it makes it like we're friends or something. But see Annie Murphy do something different. But yeah, it's super cool. My only concern right now is I'm curious what direction this show is trying to go. And what I mean by that is I'm wondering if this is going to continue to get dark and turn into a very real kind of almost like murder plot for this buffoonish sitcom husband. If it's gonna, if the divide between the sitcom world and the non-sitcom world is going to increase, or if it's gonna kind of like spin its wheels in place and every episode is gonna be like some new goofy ass situation that that Kevin creates and causes havoc, and Allison has to go out of the sitcom world and grapple with the fact that this guy's an asshole and how much she hates him. Like, I'm wondering what direction it's going. So my plan is to continue to watch the show. I'm probably not going to cover it episode by episode like I do other shows, but what I am going to do is revisit it and come back here and let you guys know what I think as it progresses. So assuming it's like a 10 episode season or something like that, I'll probably come back every 2 episodes and say, okay, I really like the direction this is going, blah, 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 blah. But as it stands right now, I find it to be incredibly interesting and incredibly creative. And I'm really excited to see where Annie Murphy is going to take this show. I'm really excited to see where the show is going to go. And I'm excited to continue thinking about the way that men behave, how we are portrayed, and how accepted our behavior is. Because when you put it over a laugh track, it almost makes it worse. It's like, God, this guy's an asshole. So I'll be back in a couple weeks to update you guys on how I feel about the show. And until then, peace.